It's time to pivot. I've been bringing you a lot of uncomfortable and some would say dark news lately, and I've done it on purpose. Now it's time to use it as an impetus for personal growth, spiritual development, and conscious expansion, not just for ourselves, but for the species. Today we're going to be talking about psychedelics and uncomfortable awakenings, as well as the 5 aspects of awakening to look out for. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Share this video. It will help other people who are trying to understand the process of awakening and why it's not so peachy all the time. Please donate to PayPal and Venmo if you are in that position. Spread the word so other people can donate. Keep this program going. Now it's time to move into the real, true nature of Waking Infinity News. Welcome back to Waking Infinity News, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Ben Stewart, and as I said in the intro, I've been bringing you a lot of uncomfortable news lately. This actually very much so pained me. I didn't really want to do it, but there was something inside me that was, in a sense, commanding me to share a lot of these things that are happening in the external world. There's a lot of civil unrest. There's a lot of people that are uncertain about where the economy is going to go, where humanity is going. They're hearing global terms like the Dark Winter, the Great Reset, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the takeover of AI and technology. I want to assure you that all of these things are the elements of our awakening. Now, you may have even seen that in the way that I express that, my voice may be a little bit different. My eyes might go a little bit different as I'm talking about this information. Let's try and remember that as much as I am a host, I am a personality. I've done Psychedelica. I've been in front of camera, behind camera, Limitless on Gaia. The list goes on and on. But the bottom line is I'm a human. I have a family. I am interested in awakening. I love using my body and moving in nature. I love hanging out with friends, making music. I'm simply the most average person you could probably imagine, with a drive to better understand why my talents are here, where my gifts are meant to propel me, and how to do this in such a humble way that others can realize that there's nothing special about me, there's nothing special about other people who have driven themselves up a ladder. Really, we all have this power. This is the true nature, this is the Tao of reality. We all have our own gifts. We all have our own place and our own purpose. And today, in this program, I hope to bring you closer to understanding who it is that you are, how to find yourself through the uncomfortable aspects of reality, outer and inner. So, as I said, we're going to be speaking about psychedelics and uncomfortable awakenings. But I want to start on an article from The Guardian that's really interesting. This guy named Robin Carhart-Harris from Imperial College London wrote this article on theguardian.com, and it's titled, "We Can No Longer Ignore the Potential of Psychedelic Drugs to Treat Depression." At Imperial College London, we've been comparing psilocybin to conventional antidepressants, and the results are likely to be game-changing. Very important phrase right there, game-changing results. Most people don't really know what a psychedelic experience looks or feels like. They don't know what to expect. I have a lot of friends of mine who have even dabbled once or twice, and they've gotten to that threshold where they realize, ooh, I don't know if I like the feeling that's emerging when I take this type of a substance. I don't know if I like the feeling that I might lose control. I want to feel my control. I want to have a grip on my control. You'll hear this over and over again. And as much as I would say about 90% of the people I associate with have done psychedelics at least regularly enough to where they've gotten to the point where they realize they may have psychedelics as a part of their life, in the same way that some of us have amusement parks as a part of our life, or vacation as a part of our life. Not all the time, usually in very minimal amounts, but very important moments that take us out of baseline consciousness to allow us to expand beyond our comfort zone. So what about that control aspect? You hear a lot of people saying, I don't want to lose control. I don't want to feel like I'm losing control. This is normal. I completely get it. And in fact, as many times as I have gone through psychedelic experiences, shamanic experiences, even breath work that can bring you to the same exact states, as much as I've had these experiences, every single time I am about to go into one of these experiences, I realize that I have fear. Every single time. And I think maybe 10, 15 years ago, I got into this whole journey thinking I want to abolish fear. I want to live without fear. And in many ways, these are very poetic ways of saying what our highest intentions are. But I don't feel that we do ever live without fear. We just reach new thresholds and we find new layers as we peel back the onion. We find new layers of what fear has to offer us until we reach that state that bodhisattvas reach, and that is bodhicitta, compassion. It's a Hindu phrase that basically means somebody who has reached nirvana, heaven, or perfect bliss. They've been able to find that place of perfect bliss and silence and stillness within them. But they do not rest in nirvana. Where do they go? They plunge themselves, the bodhisattvas do, they plunge themselves right back down into the suffering of the world. Why? So they can teach others. I'll get into that in a bit. I don't want to stray too far away, but the reason why I'm mentioning this to you is because many people don't know what psychedelics are like, how it feels, how it's going to come on, what to expect, and this can get quite scary. And we all would like to think that we want to control things, when in the end, the more you peel back that onion, peel it back layer by layer, we begin to realize that control is one of the greatest illusions that we have. We can control certain things like our choices, but everything beyond that, everything external, everything that we have ignorance around, even internal, physiologically, chemically, biologically, we don't really understand the full context of what allows that to emerge and what takes that away at the end of our life. So, here's a clip from a 2004 film called Blueberry, and I think this, other than Thrive 2, which has a very good animation of a psychedelic experience, there is an animation inside this film that I think is probably the most incredible animation, incredible audiovisual representation of what an ayahuasca experience might feel like. So I want to show this to you now.
But I don't want to die now.
Okay, I hope you guys understand that this clip, as amazing as it is not going to truly prepare you for a psychedelic experience. Psychedelics are not really like this. There's no way to explain it. It's what they call ineffable. When you wrap words around it, it already diminishes what it actually is. And this is because psychedelics seem to open up the communication between the brain stem, the mammalian brain, the more emotional brain, and the human, more human neocortex around it. Usually there's governors in between these, and we can take all of our emotions and all of our fears and compartmentalize them so we can get on with daily life. But in these psychedelic experiences, all of those boundaries start to dissolve. Now, you may have had experiences that can come close to psychedelics in your life, but there's nothing quite like it. So this film is not going to prepare you for it. It's really just a glimpse of what it might sound like, what it might feel like, what other people around us might see as we go through our experience. If you have a Kundalini awakening, some people say that Kundalini is this, at the base of our spine, there's this coiled serpent, which is really an anatomical anomaly. Physiological anomaly. It's a psychological, energetic anomaly. Every aspect of our being, there's intelligence that is dormant within us. And there are physical ways, like Kundalini yoga, even Tantra, that can awaken Kundalini. Some people say they have spontaneous Kundalini awakenings. People like David Icke said he had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. How? Mostly because he was looking at uncomfortable information. This is why previously I have shared with you some things that may be looked at as fear-mongering or conspiracy. As much as it pained me to do that, because I told myself way long ago, don't go into that direction. Only show people where their power is. Don't show them where the fear lies. Until eventually it dawned on me. Where the fear lies is where the teacher exists. So, as much as this film clip and everything that I tell you will not prepare you for a psychedelic experience, and I'm also not encouraging you to try it. Only you and your soul and deep down within you, if you feel the calling to try psychedelics, any plant medicine, any animal medicine, 5-MeO-DMT coming from the toad, if you have the calling, then I say listen to your soul. Do not listen to me. I am only here to help prepare you for what may happen and how to integrate afterwards, and that is what we'll get into today. But the first thing I want to show you is for those who do not understand what a psychedelic experience might be like, what it can offer you, and you are on some kinds of SSRIs or antidepressants, or you're thinking about going the traditional route, and you think that maybe psychedelics are the Hail Mary or the last resort, I want to tell you that maybe we should be flipping these just as a thought experiment. Maybe the first line of defense would be breath work. Second line of defense, maybe plant medicines done in a very, very controlled, safe set and setting. And then last resort, if none of that is working, maybe try psychotherapy mixed with some pharmaceutical drugs. I say last resort because I'm not going to demonize the pharmaceutical industry. I think everything has its place. However, we definitely need to find the sequence of these things. So I'm going to take you deeper into this article with Robin Carhart-Harris on The Guardian and show you what he says, because he puts it quite beautifully, how psychedelics are actually emerging as a game changer in mental health. Robin goes on in this article to say, the coronavirus pandemic has also seen a renewed focus on our psychological well-being. Loneliness, uncertainty, and grief may be intensifying an already acute mental health crisis. And in the U.S., there has been a 20% spike in the number of prescriptions for antidepressant and anti-anxiety drugs during the lockdown. Demand for key antidepressants is threatening to exceed supply in the UK, where prescriptions have already more than doubled over the last decade. Like the present pandemic, a psychedelic drug experience can be transformative of the individual and of society. Both illuminate the extent to which the condition of the world we inhabit is dependent on our own behaviors. And these, in turn, are a consequence of how we feel, think, and perceive. Isn't that interesting? Even when talking about society, these in turn are a consequence of how we think, feel, and perceive. Conventional drug treatments have dominated psychiatry for decades, and although many people prefer psychotherapy, it is more expensive, harder to access, and arguably no more effective than the drugs. These drugs haven't changed much since their discovery. We're talking about pharmaceuticals now, and come with side effects that put people off of taking them. Where SSRIs are concerned, their antidepressant action seems to rely on moderation of the stress response, but it is a palliative rather than a curative action, which requires having the chemical in the body for several months or longer. Let's be honest, most people that are on SSRIs are taking them for years, and a lot of the times there's no exit strategy. This is why there's people like Dr. Uma, who is using cannabis as an exit strategy for opiates and SSRIs and different medications where the doctors prescribe them, but there's no exit strategy. There's no, hey, here's a clear deadline when we plan to get you off of these, because they disrupt the microbiome and can put your microbiome into dysbiosis, causing a whole slew of other problems, mental, physiologically, chemically, in the body. Robin goes on to say, psychedelics are sensitive to the slippery subtleties of context. Many of the insights these compounds awaken are of a Buddhist sort, and although timelessly relevant, they feel particularly so today. The self as illusory, suffering as inevitable, attachment as a common cause of suffering, impermanence as fundamental, and slowing down, contemplation, breath, and community as potent resources. I love that. Breath and community as potent resources. Obviously slowing down in contemplation, but breath, when you really go into your breath, you automatically seem to calm down. When you are involved in your community, you automatically start to contemplate your role on deeper layers. So he goes on to say SARS-CoV-2 is a virus that attacks the respiratory system and can kill. We all breathe and we all die, but our instinct is to forget and escape these truths. Two of this pandemic's silver linings are that it has invited an expanded consciousness, and that people have slowed down. Many will have noticed their breath a bit more, contemplated their own and others' impermanence a bit more, and felt grateful for care, love, and life. Wow. Robin's words here are quite poetic, powerful, and even philosophical as he gets into terms like things of a Buddhist nature, contemplating the impermanence of life, focusing on our breath, going inward, meditating, understanding the power of community. All these things are really, they're tribal in nature. They're things that have been around for thousands of years, probably have never not been around. So many of the things that we feel we can control today, like we can understand mathematics, and then we can apply certain equations to quantum or physics phenomena. And as we get very comfortable in being able to speak about topics and be engaged in some kind of discourse where we're talking about politics and we're talking about policy and we're talking about real world events, and yet at the fundamental layer, none of the core suppositions or presuppositions that most of these things spring out of are answered yet. You can go and you will see Sir Roger Penrose talking about, we absolutely seem to know things at the anatomical level, and then you go down to the cellular level. We know what these processes seem to be. Chemical level, for sure. And then you go down even further to atoms and the level of physics. And then you go down even further into quantum physics. And as much as we peel back that onion, we start realizing that the true nature of it is a lot more flexible, a lot more, not flimsy. It has a solidness to it because everything seems to hover around it. But as soon as you try and pin it down with words and concepts and understandings, it seems to vanish before our eyes. This is the nature of psychedelics. And what he's speaking about here, why is he saying that psychedelic medicines like psilocybin, ayahuasca, MDMA, which really isn't a true psychedelic, but ibogaine, DMT, the list can go on and on and on. Why are these medicines seeming to be a game changer for the mental health industry? We have to ask ourselves that. People like Dennis McKenna, who I interviewed in Psychedelica, season 1, he said that these are ordeal medicines. You don't get the benefit of them without going through some kind of ordeal. We have been really entrenched over the past several generations into this idea that you take this one very potent chemical that's been patented and for profit, and you take this and it will fix this problem inside you, like it's mechanistic. Oh, here's a bad radiator. Let's take it out. Let's put a new radiator in. Oh, no, it's the clutch. Okay, let's take that out. Let's put this one in. Oh, perfect car now. Well, we're not as mechanistic. We know this. And we see that there's downsides to a lot of the pharmaceutical drugs that are out there. Again, not bashing the pharmaceutical industry. And if you're on pharmaceuticals, please respect the power of them. Respect that a lot of intelligence went into them, but also respect that maybe that intelligence doesn't hold a candle to what Mother Nature has. Maybe those should be closer to the last resort, and psychedelic medicines should be closer to the first resort. I still think that breath work and inducing endogenous DMT in the brain and going into these very natural and also very free and very archaic from yoga and Tai Chi, these types of methods are probably closer to lifestyle changes that we could be implementing. Dietary changes, behavioral changes, cleaning out the mind, meditating. This should always be resort number 1, the first line of defense when it comes to mental health. If we have a serious issue, then yes, maybe psychedelics. So, this is why I want to go very deeply into what awakening truly is. Why does an ordeal seem to be more game changer for mental health than these things that take 2 of them and forget about it and call your doctor in the morning? You have to face it. You can't just take it and forget it. When you take a psychedelic, try forgetting about it. You won't. You really won't. You'll have an experience. It'll change everything about the way you look at reality. And in those moments, it'll probably dredge up some things that you weren't aware of. Some people report having a very blissful experience on psychedelics. Some say, I've never had a really bad experience. And I would venture to say that these people probably are maximizing the kind of dose that they can use, maximizing the set and setting, and really only looking for a certain kind of experience. Okay, that's great. However, if you want to know what you don't know, if you're looking for a real awakening experience, meaning if you want conscious expansion, if you want to step beyond the limits of where you are right now, if you want to know why you seem to keep in this feedback cycle and banging your head against the same obstacles time after time after time, then maybe you need something closer to a dose and a setting that allows you to really, really dredge up some ancient trauma that's been sitting inside you. Because guess what? You're compartmentalizing it. You may not realize it in your conscious awareness, but it's there. You're holding on to it. And if you think about it, the reason why it might seem very much so crazy making, if you see people in a psychedelic experience but you've never had it yourself, and they're scratching at the floor and they're yelling, they're howling like wolves, it doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes they're just sitting meditatively and their difficult experience is only within. Nobody else can tell. But if you do see the other side of it where somebody needs to let it out, think about that. That has always been within you, and now it's just given a voice. You're giving it an outlet. You're allowing it to move and process itself, which, if you look at water, which we are primarily water-based beings, water needs to move. When it becomes stagnant, that's when the rot, that's when the decay, that's when the parasites move in. That's when the problems happen. So, this is why I'm bringing to you the idea that perhaps psychedelics might be a good one of the pantheon of teachers for your awakening. Meditation must be number 1. Breath is always linked with meditation. And I think doing breath work like Wim Hof breathing, Stig Severinsen, holotropic breath, rebirthing, Dan McQueen's community breath work out of Boulder, Colorado. Check all of these out. They are so transformative. And now, without further ado, I really want to get into the 5 aspects of awakening that you may not be aware of that can help you gauge where you might be at or what obstacles you might be hitting in your awakening. The reason why I say this is because during a time like now with pandemic, civil unrest, everything that's going on in the world that we may call negative is actually the perfect time to reassess assumptions that we've made in our lives, beliefs that we hold that are no longer serving us, that we wish to give up. The fear, the anxiety, the depression that Robin Carhart-Harris says is the reason that's driving a 20% spike in anti-anxiety and antidepressant meds lately, is really the absolute best time for us to acknowledge that any and all of these things are our teachers, and they are calling us from within to awaken. So I want to give you the 5 aspects of awakening and really take you through how to acknowledge what they are, and that there are some byproducts that we may not be acknowledging in the awakening process that aren't peachy. Awakening always sounds amazing, but oftentimes it has its downsides, it has its difficulties. Just like to make a diamond, coal has to go through a tremendous amount of pressure. So the 5 aspects of awakening are: number 1, deep vision. This is in regards to seeing beneath the illusion or the deceptions of reality. Now, these illusions and deceptions are also our teachers. A lot of the times those words, they make us feel like they're enemies. There's something dark and sinister going on. But for something to be dark and sinister, it really has to conjure up this Hollywood idea that they're an enemy, they're here to harm us, when truly all these illusions and deceptions are our teachers in disguise. In a sense, they're sleeper cells. They wait silently. They're invisible in the room until we start noticing, wait, what is that? That's like an invisible curtain, and I keep seeing something stepping behind it. And then we poke at the boundaries of our own limiting beliefs, and we realize there's more beyond that veil. So we lift it. That is all deep vision refers to, when we start realizing that the only thing that is creating the boundaries of our limitation is our own belief structures. The only thing that is creating some kind of limitation is us. So that's number 1. Number 2, growing up, coming to terms with the loss of innocence or ignorance. Now, when you grow up and you lose your innocence, sometimes we have to mourn that process. This is a byproduct of this part of awakening. We have to mourn the fact that we are no longer that little child. We are no longer taken care of by some top-down nanny state or parental figure. When we lose our parents, when we lose this illusion that we are no longer a child, when we wake up and we're no longer ignorant, there is a mourning process. As beautiful as awakening to us being an adult, us having more responsibility, as beautiful as that can be, there is a process of mourning. And if we don't accept that, then that can actually become a splinter that starts causing inflammation in our spirit, in our soul. Number 3, fear flipping. Acknowledging the hidden power of our fears. That's exactly what this show, Waking Infinity, is about. Most people, they avoid their fears without even realizing it. And to awaken infinity, which is always within, Nassim Haramein would say it's at that black hole at the center of our heart, at the center of our being. There's infinity there. There's more than we could ever know. But it is not there unless we awaken it, unless we call it forth with questions, not answers, not beliefs, not boxes, right? But keys, like questions, to unlock the quest, which is the root word of question, of our awakening. So, fear is the best thing to turn directly into the heart of, because fear is our teacher. So the best thing you can do, list out all your fears. Get very comfortable with it. Take some time alone. Go in your man or woman cave and simply look at what your fears are. List them out. Be honest with yourself, and maybe even share with some people that you love. Can you tell me what you think my blocks are? What you think I'm afraid of? Where you think I'm timid that maybe I don't see yet? Okay. Number 4, forgiveness. This is a big one. Forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others. And really, when you forgive the self, that's a much larger task, because a lot of the times when we don't forgive others, there's something inside us, there's a hang-up inside us, and we haven't grown past it. We haven't gotten over that hurdle. And in a way, we never seem to forgive ourselves for those things. If we haven't learned a way to get over that hump, then we blame ourselves, really. Here's where forgiveness is super important. If we're not forgiving the people in our life that have caused us harm, then we're not acknowledging that they and their actions were the greatest teacher of our awakening. When we don't forgive, then we cling to control. We cling to what we think is permanence. And as Robin Carhart-Harris said, now is a great time to start looking and contemplating, looking at impermanence, the impermanence of life, the Tao of life. Everything dies and everything is born and everything lives in a certain way. But if we're not actively looking at it, then we can get hung up on what we think we are owed in life. And when we think we're owed something and it's taken from us, then we don't see that as a teacher. And we start blaming the messenger. We start blaming the people that brought the lesson to us. So forgiveness is really important. And I think the number one thing we should focus on is forgiving ourselves for not having seen all the illusion and the deception that we've been swimming in our entire lives. Number 5, purpose. Teaching what we've learned by living it. We have to teach what we've learned. See, the thing is that our greatest purpose here is not just love. And I really believe that many people say that we're here to discover love. I think love is more of an emergent quality. Like a plant is emergent. If you put a seed in the ground and you water it and you put the right conditions around it, it does all the work for itself. You don't have to tug it out of the ground and pull its leaves out and make sure it's nice and big and strong. No, all you got to do is set up the right conditions. We heal when the right conditions are set. That's the reason for shamanic ceremonies and the ceremonial container that they're held within. And the same thing is forgiveness. When we get to a point where we understand that we are the obstacle that are in the way of our own healing, I think forgiveness could also be an emergent quality. But instead of love as being the thing that we're seeking, I think love will actually emerge the more we find our purpose. And the way we do that is by learning a lot. You got to read a lot of books. You got to expand your repertoire. If you're only reading certain things and you're not reading outside of your comfort zone, then you're really not stretching and expanding the way you can wrap concepts around abstract ideas. The next thing is not just researching. You know, I love audiobooks. I'm always researching audiobooks, but it's finding the types of topics and podcasts and things that you can listen to that bring you outside of your echo chamber. An echo chamber is when you only listen to beliefs, thoughts, ideas, concepts, and things that validate your pre-existing notions. If they fly in the face of it, if they contradict it, then we seem to push back against it. We should actively look at it. This is exactly why I have brought uncomfortable information to people in film and in series for well over a decade now. Because it's not because I want people to believe that there are conspiratorial aspects to reality. What it is that I want people to understand is when there are things that we are not willing to look at, we're not willing to study them, we're not willing to even hear people out, like flat earth, like no trees on flat earth, where a lot of big mesas and mountains may have been ancient silica trees. A lot of people are saying these are ridiculous ideas. Well, why does that upset you? Why do you take it so personal? Why do you get so wrapped up in the identity that your beliefs have to be right? Isn't that what psychedelics do? They try and crack us out of these ideas. So it's not just about learning and coming into contact with topics that break us out of our concepts, but we need to then teach others. We need to put it into action. And this is how we come to know what we know, is by teaching. You can listen to something and say, oh yeah, I totally get that. And somebody says, okay, well, summarize it for me. And then you're like, it's, the way he said it was, let me go back and I'll pull it back up for you, right? Because it's kind of still swimming around. It hasn't fully integrated for us. We need to become the teachers. We're not just children. We're not children of God, children of the earth. We're always children. We're not just students of God, students of the earth. We're always students. But students also need to become teachers. This is one big reason for older children tutoring younger children, because sometimes children can understand how to tutor children more than adults know how to relate to younger children. So this is, in a sense, this is the mystery school. The ones who are masters up here, parents, teachers, they are bringing people up from the neophyte stage, the newbie stage, up through the journeyman or journeywoman stage, all the way into master. And we keep calling it up and rising all that energy in this kind of toroidal fashion. This is life. This is awakening. And this is one of the most important things we can do to understand what awakening has in store for us. We need to become the teachers. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it brings you a lot of value. I really hope you click that like button, subscribe to this page, share this video out with as many people as possible, because what we're talking about here today is really at the essence of Waking Infinity news. The essence of it is we need to awaken the body. We need to awaken the mind. We need to awaken the heart, where real intelligence comes from. And we need to awaken community. Why did I leave out spirit? Well, spirit is never asleep. Spirit rejoices when we awaken the body, the mind, the heart, and community. I mean it. Find your tribe. Find your community. We have the internet. Yes, there's 5G. Yes, there's radiation. Yes, there's issues with technology. Yes, there's surveillance. Yes, there's privacy issues. Yes, there's conspiracy. And yes, you are more powerful than all of that. That will always be the point I leave you on. No matter what you think we are facing, no matter how you conceptualize it, understand you're probably not 100% correct. In the way that I must be humble and say, all the news I've brought you is humbly my own opinion. Take it or leave it. This is my news and I'm sticking with it. I hope it brings you guys a little bit of joy, inspiration, and also some realness. That's why some of it can get dark. It needs to be real. There needs to be something that we're turning over so the awakening can start to happen, because otherwise we get too comfortable and complacent. I'm going to be bringing you a lot more information exactly like this. So again, click the like button, subscribe, share the video out. Please donate below. That helps this program continue. And I'll catch you guys next time on Waking Infinity News.